Okay, Stuntastic 30 here, and this is going to be basically a breakdown of the Legacy Communicator mod from beginning in the box to final product. So as you can see here, I have a brand new Legacy Communicator. I already cut the seals here, just so you can see. Brand new, shiny. These it must be from like a second wave because it has the black back instead of the silver backs. So I guess they did that because of the sweat that actually wore away the chrome finish. So I mean, fine. Still, I can still mod it the same way, yeah, because everything on the inside is just the same. So we're gonna take off everything. Battery here, and we're gonna take off the whole top. I remember when I first bought the Legacy Communicator, and I was kind of like hesitant about it, but as soon as I looked at it, I was like, I want to see what it looks like inside. So I decided to open my first one, and just to see what it looks like. And to my surprise, it was actually very easy to figure out how this could be modded, because it just comes out in one whole piece. That's it. The whole module is just one solid piece, which is awesome. And another surprise was this little crown right here. At first I thought, oh man, I hope it's not part of the mold, because if it is, then my whole plan is kind of screwed. But it actually pops out. But let me take off the mesh. And also the mesh isn't glued down, which is awesome. You can completely break down the whole communicator without messing up any adhesive areas or whatever. So the crown actually just pops out. And it can be repurposed as a side button for my mod, which is awesome. My only gripe about this is that they made it out of plastic, but you know what? That's just a minor thing. No big deal. Wish the whole thing was metal. So anyway, the only thing that I actually need for right now is the module. But before I do anything to this, I need to put together one of my circuit boards. So let me show you a quick time-lapse video of that, because it takes me a while. So let's start with that. Okay, I had to cut that video short because I started getting into steps that aren't necessary for the Legacy Communicator mod. There's like some wiring and stuff involved that I would normally do for the Starlight Studio communicators. So as you can probably figure out, that was an older time-lapse video I shot for the Starlight Studio communicators. Plus, it does take me a while to solder those boards together, and since I already have a few boards put together, I didn't feel like soldering one specifically for this mod because I already have one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take off this part and cut off the LEDs, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and I also have to take off the battery pack, and it'll be ready to be mounted against this. But first, before I do that, I gotta prepare this for the mounting. So basically, this is a complete destruction of the Legacy Communicator circuit board. That is not my screwdriver. Oh man, don't tell me I left it upstairs. Oh no, here it is. Okay. Just one screw holds the plastic casing together, and just a light prying around, and it should separate. There's nothing gluing it together, it's just stuck within these areas right here. Once it pops out, there we go. It makes the whole thing pretty much come apart. And it's stubborn. Come on. There we go. Alright, so put that aside. We'll worry about that in just a second. So here we go. This is the Legacy Communicator circuit board. It's actually pretty cool how they did everything, because they had the button on the other side, and it uses the rocker to actually hit this button. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to repurpose this board to work with my circuit board. So I got to rip everything apart. I got to take the speaker off. I got to take off all of the chips, and sever a few traced connections. And I'm going to repurpose this for my board, and of course repurpose the battery holder, so that way the whole thing will fit natively inside of the Legacy Communicator with my board. So one thing that I noticed that was pretty good was that the thickness of the speaker, it's pretty much equal to the thickness of my own board. And without the battery holder, it's even thinner. So my board will be able to sit right on top and fit within the form factor without obstructing any, adding any thickness to the module. So it'll drop in without any issues. So, oh, and another thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change these LEDs, because it's the LEDs that I have are a different color. It's more red than orange, even though these LEDs are considered red. But so I'm gonna change that. Alright, so let's pry this apart. It's just some adhesive connecting the two boards to connecting it to the board, and I can simply just rip these off. Close your eyes, communicator carnage. There we go. Now, don't need this anymore. Alright, so let's take a good look at this. Let me see if I can zoom in. So here we go. Okay, so now I am going to take a marker and mark off all of the areas that I need to break connections with the traces. Basically, I need to cut the traces. So we got these two areas right here by the LEDs. Those need to be cut. Let me see here. Oh, I should talk about this. The positive and ground areas are going to be connected to my board. So I need to make sure that both of these contacts aren't connected to any other area on the circuit board, so it doesn't create any shorting issues when I connect it. Now, it shouldn't really be a problem since I am taking off the chips as well, but just to avoid any issues, I'm just going to make sure I cut all the connections. Plus, the main chip of the Legacy Communicators under this hard layer, which I'm going to just cut out completely. So this thing is going to be completely destroyed. Okay, what else do I need to cut here? Oh, here we go. Gotta cut here, sever that connection, and sever this connection right here. Right? And I also need to cut, I think I need to cut this connection right here too. And then there's oh, I gotta take off this little thin layer here. Because there's more traces under there. And I'll put it back after I'm done. So there's more traces. You can actually see the where certain areas are connecting a lot better. Boy. Okay, I need to cut here. Right there. Also need to cut. I already marked that area right there. And there's actually one more that I saw. And connects to it. Ah, there it is. I need to cut this connection right here. Right there. Right before it hits the chip. So that way, yeah. Yep, that's good. Alright, so that's pretty much all the areas that I need to cut. So we can get started with that. So it's actually kind of hard to see. So I'm gonna have to turn up the brightness really quick here. Turn on the flashlight actually. There we go. Yeah. They made the boards darker, so I can't really see my marks that well. Alright. My soldered iron is hot right now. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so first things first, let's just get rid of all these chips, and there's no finesse to this at all. We're just gonna just take it off, take it all off. Take that off. That's pretty much it. Alright, so now I need to take the Dremel and carve out this area right here. Wait, there's a lot of bad chemicals and smell that comes from that, so I gotta put my mask on. There we go. Safety first.
it's funny. They cover the main circuit board to prevent people from getting access to it. I mean, I'm not using the circuit board at all, but it's just funny that I'm just cutting through this thing. But it's gonna be completely destroyed, so I won't be able to use it anyway. Plus, I'm not really familiar with how to access data like that anyway. Alright, I gotta carve away a little bit more. Now the reason why I'm doing this is so I can actually have a completely flat surface. Like I don't want to unnecessarily add any extra thickness if I can help it. So I just want to get rid of as much bulk as I possibly can. That's pretty much why I'm carving everything out of this board and removing all the chips. This is just so I can have a flat surface for the most part. But I mean, also it helps me because I don't have to worry about any type of current going to areas that I don't want it to. I think that is it for that. That's pretty much gone. There's nothing left. There's nothing left! I'm sure the chip was in there somewhere. It's definitely not there anymore. Alright, so now I can just go ahead and just break all of the connections that I was talking about before. Looks like I accidentally rubbed away some of the markings that I made, but I remember where all of the parts are. So let me do that right now. A smaller drill bit for this part because there's a few areas that I don't want to carve away too much, and having a smaller drill bit is probably best for that. I think I might have misplaced it, or I put it back in the case. I did not. Oh man. You know, the legacy mods can actually be done like in a day, because after you carve all of the areas, it's pretty much just soldering all of the pieces together, and you know, not counting the amount of time it takes to solder the whole circuit board. It actually is no time at all to put the two pieces together. so that should be all of the connections that I needed to cut. I believe so. That should be everything, because most of the other connections connect to the main board, and that's gone. So all of the connections from that is completely severed. So those should be the only ones that I need to worry about, because I don't need to, because I'm gonna be providing the voltage and the connections to these two areas, so I don't need it connected anywhere else. And also this part. Let's take a look. Just a quick look here. Good. All right. What's next? Well, I guess the next thing would be removing the LEDs. Oh, but first, let me add 2 holes. Okay, so now here's one of the parts of the modding process. I have to drill 2 holes here and 2 holes here for the LEDs. So the LEDs are actually going to come from my board and stick through those holes and connect to the LEDs here. So I just got to make 2 small holes, and I think I have the right drill bit in right now to make that. This should be the right size. No. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's create a surface that I can drill onto. Alright. Alright, so here we go. We got the 2 holes here. That's a little bit too far apart, but I can still make that work. Alright, so this board, oh, one more hole I gotta make for this thing. Okay, so that's pretty much all I need to do to this board. I got the 2 holes for the LEDs, and then 1 hole there for the for the set button, and I'll get into that when I get up to that step. So another thing I need to do is desolder these LEDs. Should I do that now? Should I wait? Yeah, sure, let's do it now. Okay, so I got a special desoldering kit for this. Get rid of that. Now this is when it comes to desoldering, it's always a sketchy process because you could burn the circuit board and ruin some areas. So you don't want to you don't really want to just like heat this up and try and pull it out, because this hardens really fast and it can pull away some of the traces or rip away some contacts, and then you won't be able to reuse the connection. So I found this stuff called Chip Quick, and it's a low temperature solder, so it stays hot longer and it allows me to pull the chip off a lot easier, and it's a non-destructive process, so I can actually reuse the traces afterwards. So just add some flux to the area. Heat up some of that solder. I'm just gonna pour it all over the entire thing. So now it's nice and hot, and I can actually pull off the, there we go, and it comes off. And I can just, and it's actually still liquefied, so I can just wipe off the excess right here. And then I can just reuse the connection later. Pretty cool. Another thing I actually want to reuse is the spacers on these lights. Now, I don't know why. See, that's another thing. I kind of kept the heat on too long, and I melted the spacer. So I might not be able to reuse this one, but maybe I can use a piece of it. Maybe. Here we go. You can see that. So that the spacer lets the LED sit a little bit higher, so it can stick out. So it can actually reach the whole of the Legacy Communicator opening. So I need to make sure that when I solder my LEDs on there that it's that height, so it'll actually reach it. I might need to make it a little bit higher, maybe, because there's actually more room in that opening, so the LEDs can actually stick out a little bit more so you can see the dome tops. It's hard to actually get that right, and because of this modding process, I don't want to do it too many times. So I may, like, if I can't get it the first time, I might just leave it as it is, because it's really hard to get it like that. Yeah. Heat that up and pull off the, oh damn it, I messed up. I screwed up. That's not good. That's not good at all. Alright. Alright, so I got the LED off, but I actually created another issue. Shoot. Alright, so this you probably won't have to worry about if you ever decide to do this, but I got solder on this area, and that's bad. Luckily it's the low temperature solder, so I should be able to clean it off pretty easily. Well, that's the first time that happened. That's because I'm trying to film while working on it and I messed up because I wasn't looking. Oh man. Alright, so I think I got the access solder off. That would have been bad if it was the regular solder because I wouldn't be able to clean it off as easy as that other solder. Hopefully it didn't fuse any connections. But it looks like it's fine. Hold on, there's a little bit left at the bottom there. Hold on. Gotta get rid of all that excess right there. Okay, that's not so bad. Alright, so I got... Heat this back up. Okay, I had to stop the video for a second because I was experiencing technical difficulties. I accidentally pulled the solder accidentally poured into this connection. I had to make sure that there wasn't any remnants of that solder. But I think I got it all cleaned up. Alright, so now that this thing is already all clean, all drilled and cut and ready, it's one more thing I gotta do. I gotta take the original speaker. I should have actually drew this before I cut it off, but just align the speaker back on the circle as best you can. All right. And now I can get an idea on how much space I got to work with. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a marker and I'm gonna draw a circle around the entire area that the speaker actually takes up. So this actually allows me to place my board in the proper place when it's time. There we go. That's my work area. Yeah. Okay, so now done with this for a second, let's get to my board. Now, since this is actually one that was prepared for Starlight Studio Communicators, there's a few things I got to do to it. One is take off this button thing and just pop it off. That's it. Don't really need that. I'm actually gonna take off this hot glue layer. It's funny how some applications of hot glue comes off in one piece, is just as easy, and other ones I gotta pick at like crazy to get it off because it just keeps it's like it's fused to it. Mainly I need access to, alright, so I need access to this area and I need access to these contacts where the wires were. So there's hot glue all over it, so I gotta get that off. kind of rough with that. Let me double check to make sure I didn't break anything. Good. Alright, so now I got all hot glue off and everything, and it's time to snip off the tips of these LEDs, because technically the only thing that I need is the pins that's coming off of the LED. Ah, damn it. Alright, I gotta redo that. I needed this to be a little bit longer. I accidentally cut it too short. Alright, so I gotta... That's no biggie. It's just putting in a new LED and snipping it off. Alright, so let me do that really quick. But let me just give you an idea. This is what I was going for. I was just gonna snip off the LEDs and use the contacts like that. So let me go fix that, and I will be right back. And I'm back. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that I cut the LED pins too short, so I just took those off and I resoldered some new LED pins on there. So this is basically what I was trying to get. I just wanted to snip off the heads of the LEDs so I can have the exposed wire, and then I bent them across this way, and I'll explain why in just a second. So I didn't want to jump ahead too far, because I just wanted to continue and make this an organic process of like me modding with all of my mistakes and everything. So I'm just going to, now it's time to desolder the battery holder, and that should be simple. Alright. Go to one side. Bingo! There we go. So now I got the battery holder off. Flatten that out a little bit. Cool. So now this is done. Garbage. Okay, so now what I need to do now, I needed to find a way to connect the ground and the positive current of my board to the ground and positive current of this board. But being that I severed all the connections, I'm only using the contacts from the battery holder. So the ground and the positive current goes from here to my board. So I need to create a pin from here and here and feed it through to these areas. Luckily, this board is actually designed pretty convenient. It made this pretty convenient for me, because it added two pinholes that are actually the ground and positive current of the circuit board. So all I have to do is just connect it to those two areas, and then I'll have access to these battery holders, which is pretty cool. And the two pins for the LEDs, I'm gonna bend those down and basically feed them through the holes that I drilled previously. And as for the other hole that I drilled for the tactile switch, that which one is it? I believe it's this contact right here, this third one. That one will go into the tactile switch. Yeah. Alright, I think I got that. So let me start doing that. Let's hope I don't take too long, because I think this video is already more than a half hour of me just rambling and partially screwing up and fixing my mistakes. Alright, so what do I have to do? It's gonna fit like this. So I need to add which one is positive and which one is ground. This one is ground and this one is positive. So so the ground pin has to go through here and the positive pin has to go through here. Now, I've wasted so many LEDs doing this part because all I need is the metal pins from the LEDs. What I do is I snip off the head of the LED and I basically use that for that, and then I'll also use it for the positive voltage as well. Make sure I align it properly. So I need that. It's gonna be there. And I need it to align with this one. So it needs to be like somewhere over there. So something like that. Alright. So I already have solder on this area from when I had it connected before as a Starlight Studio communicator. So all I have to do is just heat it up a bit, and the solder is going to pool around the pin. But I might just add some more just for some extra reassurance that it's going to stay on there. Where's my solder? This video is gonna basically be me trying to find all of my stuff for the video. Alright, here we go. There we go. I know what you guys are thinking. Isn't it hot? Yes, it is, but I have a high tolerance. It's freaking burning my finger, but I know when to let go. I'm not gonna like freaking scorch myself. I just hold it just enough right before it hits that point where it's like it's just too hot to hold. Ow. Don't try this at home. Alright. I got that on, and now I gotta get the other pin on. So the other one is the positive volt, and I can come from there to there, I believe. It should be around there. Let me just make sure. That's that. And it's pretty much like straight down from there. Okay, I got an idea. So this is basically going to be right there. Do that. Alright, so I'm going to make this a little bit easier for me. I'm going to stick it through the hole. You know, you want to do something smoothly, and then you realize that you're just kind of screwing up. All right, there we go. So I just want to stick that in just enough. Ah, come on. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. Alright, so I just need to bend this part down right there. Let me flatten this part right here. Oh, darn it. Alright, so I got the pins for the positive and ground current soldered onto my board. So now I'm going to bend them so they can fit perfectly in these areas. So I'm going to start bending it a little slowly because I always have to eyeball this. I don't know exactly where to bend it. So just bend it slowly. Fit them inside the hole, and then I kind of like mess around until I get, basically I'm trying to align my board with the circle. So as I align it with my circle, the pins actually bend exactly how I need it. That should be it right there. I got my board perfectly in that circle that I drew. The pins are through on the other side, and if I take it off, you can see that everything is aligned like that. Oops. All right. Now, of course, looking at this, you notice a few problems, right? This contact is way too close to the LEDs, and this is too close to the other contacts over there. That is where electrical tape comes into play. So I'll take a strip of electrical tape and I put it under here, and it'll basically block the connection between the two, so they can so it keeps them from shorting each other. Alright, I'll start with a small piece because eventually I'm actually going to cover the whole bottom with electrical tape. But just so I can just show you these connections working, I'm going to go ahead and block the connections, block the pins so they're not touching each other. Right there, and alright, good. So I got those connections blocked, so they shouldn't interfere. I can just freely just stick these in. And position it however I want it. So there you go. That's the first step of fusing these two boards together. This was one of the key things that I noticed that made me realize that it was going to be possible and it was going to work well. Once I realized that I could just pin it through just like that. Alright, so I got that working. Well, I mean, I got it fitting. Now I need to work on these LEDs. So do the same thing. Just gonna bend it a little. So they can fit right in the hole. The two holes there, one there. Those ones there. And the other one is there and there, combined with the other pin there. Great. Hold. There and there. All right, I got all the pins going through, so now I'm just gonna like shimmy it around until everything fits properly. All right. The whole thing is keeping my board in that circle. As long as everything fits in that circle, all the pins will move where they need to be to fit and lay flat. So here we go. So now I got I got the LEDs through here, and the positive and ground current. And right, so I can. So let's take a good look at that. So I can pull this out and put it back in without any problem. Right? Here we go. Alright. So now I need to cover the majority of this area with electrical tape because there's a lot of exposed contacts and I don't want any type of shorting to happen, so I'm just going to cover this entire bottom with electrical tape while leaving the pinholes that these go through open. And begin with that. Sorry about that. Ran out of space on my phone. That makes sense. I think we're already running an hour. I mean that's even if well, I've been working on this more than an hour, but I think I have about an hour more footage. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it all, but you know, we'll just see how this goes as I keep going. So after having a look at all the connections, it seems like everything's good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to solder this together. So I'm gonna bend these pins out of the way because I still have to solder on the LEDs, and just want to kind of move them out of the way. Solder these 2 points down right here. Actually, wait, which direction do I? You know what? I think it might be best if I bend it. Yeah, I'll bend it this way. Don't break it. Can you see that? You know, even though this is taking me a bit, modding the Legacy Communicator is actually quite easy compared to the Starlight Studio communicators, because it requires a lot of modding to the physical casing, like to the metal case. I have to do a lot of grinding and shaping of the metal to make sure everything fits properly. So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air that I only need to work with the circuit board on this, and it's pretty much just drop and play. There's only one little tweak that I need to do to the metal in the Legacy Communicator, and that's the mesh. I just need to grind away some of the mesh so the crown can freely move back and forth. That's probably the only thing that I need to do. But other than that, it's for the most part a for the body of the communicator, non-destructive. I mean, the circuit board is completely destroyed, but the actual body of the communicator is perfectly intact. So I mean, technically you can have an untouched legacy circuit board and one of my modded circuit boards, and you can swap them out back and forth whenever you want if you wanted to do that. So anyway, back to what I was doing. I think I might need another soldering tip because I accidentally bent it. Didn't mean to do that, so I got to replace my tip really quick. Damn it! All right, so I got my new tip on, and I am ready to go. Alright, so let me just solder these 2 points really quick. I'm adding flux to the contacts, just for those who don't know. It's actually there's actually a flux liquid that I had, but I like it when it turns into a paste, so I leave some of it out in a cap, and it allows me to apply it a lot more precise rather than the liquid just pooling everywhere. I can actually just add it to the one spot that I want it. There. And there. Now, one thing I keep forgetting is that the battery holder still needs to fit around, so I gotta make sure I don't place it anywhere where that gets in the way. That's good. Alright, so now I can actually test it out right now. So first test, make sure that the positive and ground are working. I got the battery just held in place, and there's my 2 contacts right there. Boom. So now I know that these battery contacts are working. Now I think I can actually start working on the LEDs. Oh, for any of you guys that's wondering what's that buzzing sound, it's my freezer. And unfortunately I can't unplug it while I film this, so it's going to be a constant buzzing in the background. I hope it's not too annoying. So let's begin. Just want to make sure the proper orientation. You got positive voltage on the outside on both sides, so I gotta make sure that the longer pin is on the outer side. Right. I gotta keep forgetting that sometimes the camera can't see my hands. I gotta stretch it out a little further. So I destroyed the spacers, so I'm gonna try as best I can to make sure that they are the right height. Alright, so being that I destroyed the spacers, what I'm gonna try and do, I'm gonna close this in and try and eyeball the height like this. Add some heat so I can push it through a little further. There we go. Alright, so here we go. Alright, so this is going to be my gauge on how high to make it. And I want it to be pretty high. Sorry guys, I know I'm like I should be describing what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to solder on the LEDs right now, and I'm using the green casing to kind of gauge the height because I accidentally melted the traces. So this is probably the best way I can fix it. All right, so I got the LED soldered on pretty good. So I just need to snip off the excess wire and make the connection a bit more permanent. Let me do that really quick. Alright, so here we go. I got the LED soldered on. Like I said before, it's kind of like it's kind of difficult to eyeball the proper height, especially since I melted the razors, the spacers. But I mean, I try to intentionally make it a little bit higher, so so the LEDs stick out a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure how far I can go. So hopefully this will be good. I don't have to go back and readjust, because I don't really like desoldering these areas, because they can mess up after a certain point. Alright, so now that I got that connection done, let's take this off. Now I need to get the set button connected. Now, oh yeah, I gotta I forgot to poke a hole through the thing for this one. It's right there. Unfortunately, I can't really use a hard wire for this one, so I gotta use some of the micro wire that I have. Alright, it's really thin wire, so it's very delicate, so I gotta make sure I don't burn it or anything. So I got it through here, the other side, and I'm basically going to connect it to this connection right there. The other part of the button needs to be connected to positive voltage, and since this pin right here is positive voltage, all I have to do is just run a pin all the way to that connection right there. So that should be pretty simple. So let me do that really quick. I'll just like the soldering parts are gonna take me a while, so I apologize for I'm getting kind of tired. So I apologize for not talking while I'm doing this part, but I don't know, when I'm working on these things, I usually I concentrate, and I kind of stop talking after a certain point. So while I do this, I'll play a time lapse and maybe do a voiceover while I'm doing it or something like that. So let's see. So let's just get this done. All right, so, oh, I almost forgot. Now I have to add trace for the positive voltage. There we go. Now, I'm cutting it real close with all of these like contacts really close to each other, but I mean, they're not touching, so that's all that really matters. And nothing is going to make them touch either. Good, that's nice spacing. All right, good. So I am in the clear. So now this set button should actually work. Got the positive trace going from there to there, and I got the set button data activation from here to there. All right, so let's see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there goes that freezer again. Okay, so now that I think everything is all wired up, got the LEDs on, got the set button working. The only thing that I need to do now is make the access for the side button. And this is going to require a bit of trial and error. Well, not really, but more like just measuring. So I'm gonna need the actual communicator shell and mark my my areas. Okay. So I have some buttons. I bought a bunch of buttons. And I put them somewhere. Those are the buttons that I'm going to use. Oh wait, here we go. It's right here. Alright. So I'm going to use one of these buttons. And snip off one of the bottom halves. So now I just have this in. And what's going to happen is I'm just going to bend this like that. And this is going to sit right here and connect. But first I have to mark where the button's going to sit, and then I got to cut that area away. Let's do that. Okay, so now it's time to add the set button. I mean the side button, and I gotta block in where I'm gonna cut, because I gotta carve away the area that I'm gonna use. Alright, so I'm just gonna put this like right there, because that's pretty much like the area like there, like right in the center and right at the edge. So just mark my spot here. Alright, so I mean this is pretty much the area right here. I mean, it doesn't matter how I mean, I don't want to go too far where I hit this pin right here. Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that the camera stopped recording, because I was actually carving out the area. Just to kind of give you a rundown of what I actually did. I took the set button and I just kind of aligned it with the edge of the circuit board, and then I marked the areas with my marker. And then I just took a Dremel and I carved out that shape. No, of course not to get too close to any of the wires and I mean the connections that I made. So all I did was carve out this area. So right now I'm gonna go get the Legacy Communicator and see if it's fitting right, if I need to carve a little more, because looks like it looks a bit uneven, but I'll see. So we're almost there. We are almost there. So what I need to do is some fitting. Just need to make sure that there's enough room here for the button, and it looks like there is. I might need to shave off a little bit more of the other side. Yeah, so I'll shave off a little bit more of the other side. I also need to carve away all of this right here. So the button can actually move in and out. Let's do that. that. Alright. That car. So now let's check. Put that back in place. And place this. And we got motion. There we go. Now it can freely move in and out. So now one thing I need to check is the actual button. Alright, gotta make sure that there's gonna be enough room. Oh yeah, that is definitely enough room. That's actually really good. That is superb. Alright, now it's not actually going to go in this way, it's going to go in the other way. Like these two pins are going to go inside in the other direction. Because there's way too much going on up here for these to be up there. Alright, so now, oh, let me mark this area as the actual line. Okay, so that's all I needed the board for. Put that away. Take it apart again. So far so good. This mod is coming along just fine. I'm not sure if I explained what I was doing when I did this, but I had to open this up a little bit just so there's enough room for this, because I got wires hanging off the side and I don't want any pinching going on. So simply just opening up this area gives some breathing room for the wire. Now that I got that set up, I need to put this there. So basically I need to put it like that and have it hang. Alright, so basically I need to position the button like this. So, alright, so the first thing I want to do is align it in the position that it's going to be in. And this is pretty much the sweet spot right there. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to hold it in place with some hot glue at first. And then solder it in place. And then make it a permanent fix with some epoxy. jumped ahead just a little bit because I needed to kind of look closely so I can align the tactile switch, make sure it's centered with the crown. So I already soldered it down. You saw me add the pin here and solder it together, and then I added a small wire here and looped it around and connected it to the other contact. So now this would work as the primary side button, and I already have everything wired up for the set button. So now I just need to add some epoxy to hold the button in place so it doesn't move around, and it'll be secure when pressed like several times and stuff like that. So that after I do that, I think that might be it. I don't think there's anything else I need to do after that. So let's get some epoxy on this thing. Alright, so I kind of jumped the gun again, and I added the epoxy in between everything here. Also added epoxy to the bottom. Right now it's curing, so I gotta let it sit for a bit. But that is pretty much everything right there, I think. So after that hardens, I can actually close it up, and it'll be ready to put back into the Legacy Communicator. So that's gonna take a few minutes. So I'll just wait until that's finished and then test it out. But here we go. Right there. Alright, so the epoxy is hard, and see, it doesn't budge when I push. So now I can actually close this up. Everything fits just fine. Screw this shut. That's if I didn't lose the screw in all of this going on. No, did not lose it. Here we go. So, for those of you that are still watching this, thanks for sticking through all of this. I know I didn't really talk much, and most of it was just kind of like just babble, but you know, just wanted to kind of give just a slightly detailed rundown on how I go about merging the two circuit boards together, and basically making a successful Legacy Communicator mod. This is it in a nutshell. Right? I almost forgot. Before I close everything up, I gotta update the mesh. And this is actually a really quick process. Just take one of my foam pieces and a strip of the mesh that I use. I'm going to take the mesh and shape it using the mesh that came with the Legacy Communicator. Try and get it to fit as flush and natively as I possibly can. Okay. So I can go ahead and cut the outer rim of that. fit that in. And now that the back is screwed on, everything is inside, nice and snug. The side button and the set button is pressing nicely. It's time to add the battery. Now, one thing I must mention. The height of those LEDs is crucial. Like, you would think that there's so much room inside that it doesn't matter how high the LEDs are, but it really does. Like, it's designed in such a way where if the LEDs are the slightest bit higher than stock, then it's just not going to close properly, and the set button for some reason just doesn't work. I spent like a good half hour going back and forth trying to figure out why was the set button not working. It's because the LEDs were too high, and for some reason it was causing a gap between the set button and the tactile switch, and it wasn't pressing. Oh, I just did it without even mentioning. I had to put that that ring back in just as like an insulation between like the traces and everything. So I just put that back in. Time to put the battery in, and of course it's all as if it was a normal Legacy communicator. The battery goes in the same way and screws down the same way. I would never have to take this completely apart ever again. All I have to do is just open up the battery access if I want to change the battery. And here we go. Got the mesh. It's working. Set button. Error sound. So there we go. And that is it. I don't know how long this video is, but thank you for watching the entire thing, because I know it's going to be really long. I'm not going to break it up in parts. So this has been a Stuntastic 30 mod. Thank you guys. I am going to go get something to eat and go to sleep. Goodbye. Goodbye.